a charity event, people don't care if you're good. They want a picture with you and it's a best ball and someone else is going to hit it farther. And like, it's not about that, you know? So die to yourself a little bit, um, and be willing to like try something new and be.
Hi, it's Fred Underwood with Dream Big Sports, and welcome to Powerhouse Conversations, where we have powerful discussions around how to use digital transformation in the brands of athletes. Our guests share their experience and expertise to inspire innovation with our audience. Now let's begin. All right, welcome to another episode of Powerhouse Conversations, brought to you by Dream Big Sports, the home of the best podcast for athletes looking to leverage technology to power their personal brand. This is episode 39, and today we'll be having our special guest, esports brand builder and strategist, Rebecca Longwa with Happy Warrior. With over 20 years of experience in sports and marketing innovation, Rebecca is a master connector and a networker. Highly regarded as a maven in the esports industry, she is the founder of esports consultancy firm Happy Warrior. Her client work includes helping pro sports teams monetize their organizations through brand partnerships and growth strategies, and working with creative and media agencies to bring their brand accounts to esports ecosystem. Hi, Rebecca, and
Hi.
how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Just rounding out the week. We were right in the middle, so it's going pretty good. Starting out the month, just trying to get everything going, and just keep it going.
It's
What about
September.
you?
I can't even believe it. It feels like we didn't even have an August.
Yeah. August went by pretty fast, so that was a little weird. But no, we're shooting through the 2022. So how was your summer? I guess I should ask.
It was busy. I think my strategy for next summer is going to be like just say no. Like just
Hmm.
say no to traveling and just saying no to like going and speaking on LAN, like live events, which I mean, I'm glad they're back, but I I live in Minnesota. I have a lake house right on the water, me and my kids, and I feel like I didn't get to enjoy it like I have the last couple of years. You know, COVID was um there were some silver linings, one of them being home with my kids all the time and being able to enjoy this beautiful lake. But this summer, man, I mean, I went to DreamHack Dallas, Overwatch tournament, some Call of Duty live events in New York, um, and I mean, Chicago. I was in Edmonton, Vancouver, Toronto. Like, it's just been the esports world is back and LAN is back. It's booming. So pretty busy, pretty busy.
That's great. So tell us about Happy Warrior, and just give us a little foundation of how it
Yeah.
started.
So Happy Warrior actually started in working with traditional sports athletes and entertainers. It kind of grew from my experience working in the NBA with the Timberwolves and Lynx, and having players kind of consistently coming to me, or their family members or their agents, trying to figure out how to monetize their personal brand in a time in which technology was evolving quite rapidly, right? So think about mid to 2010 to 2014 type of a time frame. Social media was growing really quickly, and players were really leaning in on creating their personal brands without them really coining those terms, right? They were connecting in a more intimate way, and giving their fans the opportunity to see them in a more intimate light, and engaging with them. I was seeing traditional pro athletes' social media grow quicker than the teams social media accounts because the teams at that time weren't really putting strategy behind it. But the players who were really able to rise above the noise were the ones who were consistent with generating content and engaging. So I was having, players reach out to me, some of their family members reaching out to me. I just made the leap into building out a consultancy and leaving full-time pro sports to kind of go out on my own and really help these men and women figure out how they can bring in incremental revenue that agents weren't necessarily going after. If you think about where you're viable, it's where you went to college, where you grew up, and the team that you're playing for. And so for players that were playing here in Minnesota, there was some low-hanging fruit that I was able to help them figure out, as well as, working on a number of other things like events. And so I kind of built out an LLC, tried to be nimble, work with some athlete clients, some ad agencies on throwing events for them. I worked with a production company on a show with former wrestler and Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura. Worked through a production studio house on that project. But yeah, I mean, Happy Warrior really, it was created as a way for me to lean in and add value to people that I was engaging with, that I really cared about, that I liked, that I enjoyed being around, and was, really wanting to help them through the things that I had learned. And
Gotcha.
then the pivot to being really 100% esports happened when COVID happened. I was already working in esports a bit, but when COVID hit, I just kind of changed up the narrative, because I believe in leaning into innovation and leaning in where you have the best, opportunity for success. So I kind of flipped the script to being more about esports, brand building than traditional sports.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense, but I do want to dive into obviously the pandemic, right? It created this happy medium. This everybody's in the house. Everybody's gaming is you always got in trouble for being on the game too much, and now you're forced to be in the house. So gaming became a big thing. It was like it was already coming, and then esports. Then the pandemic hit, and then now it's like, okay, boom, explosion, right?
Yep.
But what you said you were already sort of doing some things in it. What drew you to esports in general?
So a couple of things were kind of happening around the same time, where I was chatting with a really close buddy of mine that came from traditional advertising, super smart guy, had his own agency. His name is Van Horgen, and I've talked about him in the past on interviews, but he's like OG agency, super smart kid, Vietnamese immigrant, in his 50s, super, super hyper Overwatch fan, right? And player. And he was kind of dripping Overwatch knowledge into my ear and he was able to kind of draw the line between what was coming in to the US in terms of like franchised teams for sports, and was kind of picking my brain and talking to me about what I was doing with traditional athletes and saying, hey, like there might be an opportunity here. And he was kind of exploring getting into Overwatch in some way, maybe managing players and waiting for the moment when these franchises launch, because we all could see it kind of coming. So I was having conversations with my buddy Van, starting to like, maybe I should look into this, right? Like I'm always leaning into what's next. So doing some research there. And then at the same time, I've been an investment advisor for Stadia Ventures for quite a few years now. Stadia Ventures is a VC that builds out cohorts of talented startups that they mentor. and they do that every 6 months. And it's kind of like a pitch event, very centered around entertainment and sports technology. And I was an advisor with them. So I already had Van in my ear talking about Overwatch. I'm like doing a little bit of research. I'm, reading newsletters, subscribing to Esports Observer and Esports Synopsis Esports, and like starting to consume some information about the industry and looking at videos of, League of Legends happening over in some live events happening overseas that are just like mind blowing. Right. So I was already like onto it. But then what was happening is we started getting it through Stadia, esports tech startups applying for mentorship and funding. Mm-hmm. That for me was like the big moment of saying, okay, if these startups are getting vetted out by some of the absolute top investors in the United States, and they're wanting to take a serious look at this, now my spidey senses are going up, right? Like, that Gary V go, do the thing that other people aren't necessarily the most comfortable yet, because if you can learn, then you provide more value, right? Than people who wait for it to become viable. I can't remember the name of the author, but I heard this author speak at a conference in Miami this spring that said it's a risk to follow a slow trickling stream, but slow trickling streams often lead to raging rivers. And for me, I feel like I was able to see that potential of a raging river with esports. Mm-hmm. I kind of felt like I was shouting it from the rooftops, and people were like, for a while. When COVID happened, it wasn't like, the industry grew a little bit quicker maybe than it would have. Some people debate that. It was already on a pretty upward trajectory, right. But the narrative in mainstream media is really what shifted. Mainstream media, first of all, didn't have anything to write about from a sports beat type of a scenario, but also they were scrambling to figure out what were people doing in their house. And there was a study that the top 5 things people were doing was like gardening, making sourdough bread, watching Netflix, like playing video games, and and doing like outside extracurricular activities like biking and hiking and camping. So, esports was there. It was definitely part of the narrative. And it's not like I knew everything. I still don't know everything. It was, I'm willing to dive and be all in. And if an opportunity presents itself for me to work with an account or a client in this realm, I know I have super strong skill sets in branding, marketing, sales, partnerships that I can draw from and inform onto this industry. And I was willing to literally get up. I didn't have work for 3 months. Like many people didn't have any work, but I got up every single day and did the work for what was to come, So I think that definitely is, I've talked to a lot of other people that were in a similar situation. And I think that differentiator was like getting up and having calls and not having any money tied to anything, but like having every single discovery call, every single phone call, helping people figure things out, and, putting money aside and trusting that it'll come eventually, so.
Yep, doing the work and laying the foundation, right? Like investing in yourself and in your business from a monetary and from a time standpoint, putting in the sweat equity, and being prepared to grow your brand from that perspective. I think that trends goes into the next question of how can these athletes or these esports athletes what can they do to start building their personal brand and grow their personal brand?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for like 3 hours about building a personal brand and really leaning in there. And when I'm going to talk about athletes as esports athletes, but also entertainers and traditional athletes that are
Yep.
interested in getting into gaming as well, because I think
Yep.
it's extremely important for them to look at this as an avenue in which they can grow their presence
Mm-hmm.
as I always talk to traditional athletes who are interested, who are already playing games anyways, who are interested in this space as it's another digital marketing strategy that you just loop in and layer into everything else that you're doing. But there's a lot of things to take into consideration. So, creating good content, a lot of people talk about having content that, stands above and is good. That's definitely one thing, but consistency is really the biggest factor. Because a lot of times people will hold themselves back, especially on the traditional side of sports or the like musician entertainer side. They are nervous that they're not good enough, like they don't play good enough
Mm-hmm.
to show their live stream, or they don't have enough knowledge to share to be on their live stream. It's not necessarily about being the best. It's about being an entertainer. Just like
Right.
as a traditional athlete, your job isn't to necessarily win games. Like, obviously, you're already an elite talent. Your job's to like sell tickets. Your job's to connect with the fans. Your job is to be an entertainer. Your job is to have memorable moments. It's the same in the gaming ecosystem. So if you're going to start streaming, being consistent in doing that on a consistent basis, the traction will come, and you have to believe in your own, your bravado, your personality to shine. But it doesn't come without risks. I mean, if you take a look at Myers Leonard, streaming killed his career because he used a racial slur, an anti-Semitic slur, I guess, in a live stream. And it not only killed his career as a streamer, but he was released from the NBA. So you got to make sure that, the trash talk you do on a field or on a court is oftentimes only heard from people within earshot. You're getting on a stream. If you can't control
Right.
yourself, then you probably shouldn't be a streamer. If you
Right.
have a tendency to use toxic language or language that is, discriminatory in any way, and
Right.
you haven't been able to self-correct that, maybe it was part of your upbringing. Maybe your crew talks that way and the people you surround yourself with are like that. Like, I get that. Then don't get into a space where you're always on for 6 hours a day,
Right.
because you can't present yourself in a respectable manner. You'll get skewered in this space, right? So it
Right.
doesn't come without risk,
Right.
but the reward is quite high.
Right.
So, you have to do a little bit of digging. And then, just like any personal brand, building out, I like to talk about the four pillars of building your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
What are the key things about you that are going to help a brand? Because you shouldn't do, I mean, you should take into consider the ability to monetize if you're going to lean in and invest that time, right? So how can a brand learn all about you quite quickly from either scrolling through your Twitter, your Instagram, or engaging with your content on a platform like Twitch or YouTube gaming? It's about thinking about what your pillars are. You as an athlete, whether you're a traditional athlete or you're a competitor in the video game industry, is like one bucket. And then what are the other four things that you really want? What are you doing in the community? What is your purpose in life and your passion? And then are you willing to share a little bit about your personal life, your family, maybe your wife or husband, your children, your friends, and then your other hobbies? Like, what are the other things that like make you you, and how can you bring those forth so that people get a full picture and brands get a full picture of, like what makes you marketable to them? I always like to think about where success is like repeatable moments or repeatable things that are about you. Like, so Kevin Garnett, for example, Kevin Garnett with the clapping the hands of the chalk at the broadcast desk in NBA. I guess LeBron kind of copied that, but KG was the OG of that moment. And then at the 2-minute mark, when they announced the 2 minutes, KG would go to every corner of Target Center and
Yep.
pump the crowd up. He'd lift his arms, lift his arms, lift his arms. He wouldn't stop, wouldn't stop until the energy lifted, and that carried him through, right? That's what makes Kevin Garnett a legacy. Those repeatable, memorable, expected moments. In gaming, if you take a look at Ninja, Tyler Blevins, Ninja, it's the band, it's like the bandana, it's the blue hair, it's the bright colored hair, it's the high pitched voice, it's the, boy next door doing the thing, kind of, innocence of who he is, that people literally picture him with the blue hair all spiked up with the, ninja bandana on. That's how people think of him, right? It creates memorable moments. He's not the best Fortnite player in the world, right? We saw that when he competed in Booga 1, but he's created a repeatable moments and a brand around himself that people really kind of, it resonates with them because that's Ninja, right? Ninja's Ninja. You know what to expect. You see different people who do vlogging that maybe a woman always wears red lipstick or a man always is wearing the same black hat, right? It's just around thinking about how you're presenting yourself in where you're kind of unrecognizable, or you're recognizable and you're unmistakably recognizable to the broader community.
No, that makes perfect sense. And that was one of our bigger audience is the NCAA athletes and in the NIL space. How do you see like you said with traditional athletes, how do you see those opportunities mixing and having some overlap for partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about doing things that are really true to you. Mm-hmm. If you're not a gamer, right, probably, shouldn't try to just pretend to be one or force right. your way into the space because it's a trend. I've talked to athletes who are really into, you really go to like, what is your hobby, right? I've talked to athletes that are really into like hunting or fishing and lean into creating content around that. Right. And Twitch, you can create any type of content on Twitch. It's a live streaming platform, right? You see talent like Dylan Francis doing concerts on Twitch during COVID, right? There's a lot of talent that was leaning in and doing like live DJ sets on Twitch, which is dope. Like, what is it that you have to share to the world? Your unique voice. And I will say, like, because I've worked with athletes since I was 19, so many of them, the only thing that holds them back to growing their brand is their fear of judgment, of not being the best at something and trying something new. I mean, I don't know how many golf tournaments that I've worked on where we're trying to get athletes to come for like Masonic Children's Hospital, and they're nervous. They don't want to come because they're not really good. And it's like, it's a charity event. People don't care if you're good. They want a picture with you, and it's a best ball and someone else is going to hit it farther. And like, it's not about that, so die to yourself a little bit, and be willing to like try something new and be 100% authentic to who you are, because that comes across. Not everybody's comfortable being in front of the camera all the time, but every athlete I've ever worked with has had a lot of media training, and they do know how to share what they think and talk. So I think it comes down to, first of all, consuming content and taking a look at people who are doing things like Demontre Moore is doing some super cool stuff in the space in creating content on Twitch. Saquon Barkley is doing some cool things. Trevor May, pitcher, he's doing some really cool content. Like, just start consuming content and reaching out to people that look like you, right? So reach out to another athlete, whether you know them or not. Like, I would say in this industry, in esports specifically, people are so willing to share like ideas and to bring you alongside. Like, co-stream, do some fun things, get involved in some charity tournaments, reach out to St. Jude and get into some of the St. Jude or Leukemia and Lymphoma Society or Be the Match type of content. You know, lean it back like into purpose-driven things where, you know, you're making a difference. And there's a lot of people out there like Exposure out of Dallas who have a team that can help you figure out how do you set up your setup from scratch, right? Like, they will walk you through what's the list of things you need, how do you set up a stream, how do you get started. There's resources out there, you know, that can help these guys and girls to get their brand started in the space. But I think it's part of a broad digital and social strategy. You know, just like Facebook is not really relevant anymore. Some other things are going to go away. I mean, first of all, from an NIL perspective, I would get into TikTok way before I would try to start streaming for hours at a time on Twitch, right? Like, you got to go where the iron is really, really hot. So, you know, getting involved in one-off events through Twitch would be an amazing way to get started and feel it out and see if it's for you before you like lean in and create your own entire profile and page.
Right.
But, you know, TikTok's where it's at. And if you're going to be producing content on Twitch, you should probably leverage some technology that helps you slice that up and then feed it through the other formats. So YouTube, clips, Instagram, Reels, TikTok, you know, that you should really think about having somebody on your staff, even if it's part-time college student who's really excited about, you know, when I worked with Ricky Rubio, we had Elizabeth, right? And she was in college for marketing at the University of Minnesota, and she helped with a ton of things for Ricky, you know. She, you know, you bring in some of those interns and get them the experience that they're wanting and that life experience that they're wanting, but also they're young subject matter experts that can really help manifest some big things for you and do the legwork.
Yeah. I think that's a big area of opportunity for some of these like college athletes. Like, build out your team early, and utilize your peers on campus to get some. You know, they're going to get experience. You know, they're always college kids are always looking for internship or something like that. Create your own internship. Go do the work for this whatever big time athletes that's on campus. And that's your experience right there. So when you get out of college, you've already done a lot of the stuff that they're going to be wanting you to do. But you did it and you created it on your own. So I think that's a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. And, you know, if you're at a large campus, take a look at the broader community and maybe reach out to a more boutique school, an art school that has, you know, graphic design and social media marketing and project management. Make yourself a project. Yeah. Like, literally think about yourself as a project. Too many, I will just caution, this is the mom in me. Too many athletes that I've seen over the years tap into their friends growing up and their family members to manage things that they don't have any business managing for you. Right. And it's hard because they want to lift up the people around them. But I will say, Imagine standing on your kitchen table and you're on top of the world. Is it easier for you to lift up your buddy from elementary school that maybe in high school that doesn't have the skills that you need done? You're going to pull them onto that table and put them in charge of your brand, or put them in charge of your marketing strategy, or put them in front of in charge of your finances. Is it going to be easier for you to lift them all the way onto that table? Or is it going to be easier for them to drag you down and get distracted? Right? You got that pull. You're going to tumble. That's a tough one. That's a really, really hard thing. And I would say, number one, if you're even in college and you think that there's an opportunity for you to monetize while you're still in college, you need to find yourself a fiduciary, a wealth management firm that is a true fiduciary, not just a wealth manager, a fiduciary, and start there, and then build a team around that. Vet some people out. And they can be college students. And I think you probably would get the biggest bang for your buck on college students. But if you got somebody in your ear saying they're going to do it for free, run, because the quality is going to be free. You get what you pay for. Pay somebody a flat retainer for a month, for each month. Start with a 3-month contract. See if they're getting the stuff done. You're in control of what gets pushed live, right? Don't give anybody access to your handles, but give them, the opportunity to create your posts and put them into a digital platform. And you're the one who is approving those and pushing those live. You're in charge of your brand, at least when you're young. And you have somebody you can truly trust, but you don't want somebody in having control of your DMs and all those other things. That's where a lot of risk. You got to mitigate your risk wherever you can. But, really being strategic and thinking of yourself as a business. I look at players that I was even friends with in college over the years and later that really missed out on the opportunity that is at the fingertips of so many athletes right now. So, think of yourself as a business. You are the CEO of your business. You are the business. Your brand is the business. So you're going to want to hire the best with skills. And as you grow and as you get contracts and as you renew contracts, you replace those people with people that have bigger skills and more experience, but you don't need to start with the biggest budget off the gate,
Right. No, and I think that's a good point for the ones that are, making money, because they're beginning to make money. So take, a lot of these kids are going to, get that money and just splurge and spend it. But to your point, if you look at yourself as a business, then you should reinvest in that business by getting some top talent to help manage your business.
Yeah, you don't just because, who told me this? Okay, John Thomas, who played in the NBA for quite a bit, played overseas. He told me the most thought-provoking thing, right? So he played for the Timberwolves for a while, and he was like, just because I could walk into a Louis Vuitton store with Kevin Garnett with money in my pocket and buy the same thing that Kevin bought doesn't mean I should, doesn't mean it's financially sound. We might have the same amount of money in our pocket as we're walking in the store, but Kevin Garnett is the exception and I'm the rule, right? That's what John said. He's like, I will never have a career the same. So when you're a young talent, I think the hardest thing is so many rookies come into hockey, football, basketball, coming in thinking they're gonna be the thing, because they've always been the man, right? They've always been that they're going to be that exception. They don't want to face the emotional crisis of acknowledging that they may only be playing professionally for 2 to 4 years, right? But the ones who really are able to have a very happy, sound life are the ones who go in with the mindset of, I could have these things, but I don't need to have those things right now, right? Living lean, You don't need to compare yourself. You're not trying to be the vet when you walk in the door. You know, be a listener, be a lover of learning. Athletes who can really adopt the mindset of being a lover of learning and carry that through life are the ones who really are going to be successful. And being okay with, like, you know, being patient and waiting for the, you know, even if it's just a Gucci overnight bag, right? Or, you know, a fucking bag to put your shaving kit in. Like, you don't need that right now.
Right.
Because as somebody who's worked on the staff for an NBA team, when we see those boys roll up in a brand new car as a rookie and they've got, you know, the fresh fit and they're logoed out from head to toe, the first thing that goes through our minds is that kid took a contract to a bank, got a advance on money that they're going to pay 30 to 40% interest rate on. We look at them like they're a fool. We're not like, ooh, look at you. You look good. We look at you like, I've seen this since the late 1990s, and I can see the Ferrari crashing straight into a wall, which is the life you're trying to live right now, you know?
It always ends bad from a financial perspective.
It's just a hard pill to swallow. I grew up really poor. I remember, like, starting to have a job where I was bringing in money and, like, buying, like, cocktail shrimp at the grocery store and thinking I was super special, right? Like, I didn't grow up with nice things. I didn't grow up being able to buy anything full price. Like, it was like you go to the Kmart, you go to the clearance racks and you find something you can settle with. Like, I get it. Like, I get it. I grew up in a rural area in central Minnesota. My parents shared a vehicle a lot of the times. Like, I didn't have a lot either. I have to remind myself, right? Like, to be mindful of consumption, and am I buying things because I feel like I want to look a certain way, or I'm filling a void I didn't have as a kid? Like, we all go through that, you know, but they don't teach you that in school. They don't teach you that at rookie camp either, by the way. They don't talk about that. So I think it's important for, you know, the players who have been through it to continually talk about it, and people like myself who have worked in sports my entire career to talk about it, to, like, share that insight. And a lot of people are like, well, you're wasting your breath. But I mean, I know I'm not, because I've heard from players that have listened to things that myself and others have said that they've taken to heart, and it's helped form and inform the way that they mold themselves. So if it's like, if 100 people hear it and 2 do it, well, that's freaking awesome, because now 2 people have, like, really done some thinking about, you know, how they're going to present themselves and where they find their value. Because, you know, an athlete dies 2 deaths. And the first is when they lose friends and oftentimes family and people that they thought were there for them because of them, but were really there because of the place that they were in their sports journey. And it's really hard when you identify yourself as an athlete and that's stripped away from you, whether you're injured out or your contract's not renewed. So few athletes get to leave on their own terms. You know, that's the biggest lie that little kids are told, is that they're going to retire one day. You know, it's a big lie.
Yeah, there's a very select few that get to leave on their own their own terms. Like even last night, Sue Bird, you know, she retired and finished her career, but that's like you know, a lot of people don't get to, you know, say, hey, I'm retiring and get to, like, just walk off the court and get celebrated. It's not like that for the majority of athletes. Yeah,
it's an anomaly to have that. But that's what we see. Right. That's what we see day in and day out. We dismiss the rest, you know?
Yep. So I know we're getting to the end. I wanted to ask some questions, some rapid fire questions that we asked at the end, but what was your favorite, game growing up?
Tetris.
Tetris. Okay, cool. Who would be on your Mount Rushmore of athletes all time? for athletes.
Okay, how many people are on that Mount Rushmore?
Four.
Four. This is really going to show, like, I'm going to be Reggie Miller.
Okay.
Sure. Reggie Miller. I mean, can we just put Reggie Miller, like, over 4 decades? Like, I love Reggie Miller. He's my number one. Reggie Miller, Kevin Garnett. I'm a Minnesota girl. Love Kevin Garnett. Chris Carr. Or not Chris Carr. Who am I thinking of? Chris, football, Vikings.
Chris Carter.
Chris Carter.
Yeah.
Chris Carter, more for my dad, because when I was growing up, my dad was obsessed. And then Tony Oliva. Like, I'm a Minnesota girl, so like you're gonna get some Minnesota vibes mostly, but I gotta throw in Reggie Miller. Like,
I was about to say, where did the Reggie Miller come from?
I loved Reggie Miller when I was like a kid. Probably my brother was probably a Reggie Miller fan. I loved Reggie Miller. I had a poster of him in my bedroom when I was like in middle school and high school. I don't know. I just had the biggest crush on Reggie Miller. And then I got to meet him when I played for the Timberwolves. I didn't play for the Timberwolves. I worked for the Timberwolves. Right. He was being like, like a coach and around. And I was like, my God, like, that's just amazing. I don't know. Yeah. There's something about that kid. He's just pretty phenomenal.
My friend's a really big Reggie Miller fan. That's pretty cool. I'll tell him about that.
He's awesome. I don't know. I also really I love Dante Culpepper when he played here. I liked his energy. Okay. Sassy. I wouldn't put him on a Mount Rushmore per se. I'm just going with my personal Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, of course, obviously.
I mean, if we're talking about like the best athletes of all time, I'm sure everybody's talking about who they think are the best athletes of all time. But yeah.
Yeah. No, your personal favorite. What about your favorite business person? Who inspired you the most from a business perspective?
Sheryl Sandberg's up there.
Okay.
Gary Vee's a close second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And what is the technology that you cannot live without?
I mean, my phone. I'm an Apple user. Yeah, I love my phone. I think my notes app in my phone, of like the most basic of basic things, really, I have lots of lists in my notes. Okay.
I keep a lot of notes as well, so that's why I jot down all my random thoughts and ideas and things of that nature. So
yeah, I'm like I'm an ADHD kid, so if it's not written down, I won't remember. So when I'm like on the plane and things are coming to me, or I'm traveling or laying in bed at night, I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and literally have a flood of ideas, and I'm typing those into my notes, my ongoing grocery checklist, all the toxic revenge I want to, invoke on other people. That's in a whole list. Inspirational quotes. Like, I've got lists on lists on lists in there.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. What is something that you would like to leave the audience with, or anything, any advice? What do you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, it doesn't matter where you grew up. It doesn't matter the childhood that you had. It doesn't matter what school you went to, whether you have a degree or not. I don't have a college degree. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to be surrounded by people who speak life into you. If you have people in your life that are dragging you down, their lifestyle's not matching up with where you want to go, prune those people out of your life, prune those negative thoughts out of your life, believe in the vision that you have, you manifest that, lean in, and, build the best version of yourself day in and day out. Forgive yourself when you trip up, and just keep moving forward. I've really been blessed to come from a father who spoke a lot of life into me, and didn't come from a lot, but I'm really proud of the life that I'm building for me and my kids as a single mom. And I just keep moving forward with, fortitude and grit, and And a lot of people, get held back based on what they think other people came from when they're accomplishing great things. That all that shit doesn't matter. Just continue to, move forward and be the best version of you can be,
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again. Let everybody know where to find you, and we can get out of here.
Yeah. Rebecca R. Langawa on Twitter, Rebecca Langawa on Instagram, Rebecca at happywarrior.us if you want to drop me an email. Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Freddie, for having me on.
Thanks again. And you all, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back next week for another episode. Thanks.
Thanks, buddy.